I snooped on my brother and found something horrifying. I just found something pretty disturbing, and I'm not really sure what to do next. My brother is usually a super private person and doesn't hand out his phone to anyone. We are currently on a family vacation overseas, and he is the only one with a working data plan. So we've been using his phone quite a bit. His open web tab was on a popular fiction website, and I saw his logged in username before he swapped tabs to a new one. I frequent the site as well, and when back in the Airbnb, went to check his profile to see if he too ran in the same fandoms as me. I must admit that this situation is entirely my fault as I snooped. I know I shouldn't have, but I was so curious. To my surprise, he had a few published works, but when I opened one, I almost puked. His latest story was of a brother violently R-wording his sister in graphic detail, who had the same first name and general description as me, in a setting I recognized as my parents' house. He insulted my eldest sibling and also my parents in horrible ways as well. I won't go into any further detail, but suffice to say, it was the single most horrifying thing I've ever read. Ever. Now I'm in the bathroom with this Airbnb typing this, and I'm not sure how I'm going to go out and face my family. Should I just ignore this? Is this normal, and am I overreacting? I mean, everyone has their interests, and my brother has never ever acted inappropriately towards me or anyone in my family in real life. Please tell me this is so. Ugh. Moral of the story, don't snoop. Never ends well. Edit, I am 19 female and my brother is 23 male. Update, thank you to those who replied. I still have no idea what I'm gonna do. I really do get that it is fiction, and I completely understand that part of the appeal is to push characters to extremes because it would never happen in real life. It would not have disturbed me at all if the people involved were literally any other fictional character. Emphasis on the fictional. All I expected when I searched his phone was to find a list of his favorite fics and thought we could discuss any shared fandoms. And I know I shouldn't have gone looking. Didn't expect him to be an author, much less this. I'm sorry for the long paragraph. It's late at night and I can't bring myself to sleep in the same room as my brothers. Might just crash on the couch where I am at now. Also, I'm planning to beg off tomorrow's planned tour. We'll catch up on sleep then. And then the OP makes an update the next morning saying the fam is out for the day. Managed to stay back at the Airbnb and the Wi-Fi. There has been a split of opinions down below, and there are many who think that the writings are just writings and private. I think I will give him the benefit of the doubt this time. I don't think I have the stomach to upset everything if so. I'll be back out of the house for college soon, so there will be distance. Thanks for listening to my earlier confused post. And now let's get into some of the top comments on this post. Someone says, wow, that is freaky and I don't know what you should do. I will say Stephen King has written all sorts of freaky stuff and to my knowledge has never done anything similar in real life. Having an imagination and writing stuff is different than doing it. I'd be tempted to talk to someone about it though. And then the OP responds saying, on a theoretical level, I completely understand the fantasy doesn't equal real life idea. Just that it was a little too personal for my liking. I turned to Reddit because I don't think this is something I can speak to about anyone else IRL at the moment. Someone else says, run. And the OP responds saying, trust me, if we weren't on vacation, I would be staying over at a friend's house to think this through. Another user says, that is terrifying. If you have a therapist, I would ask them. I'm sorry that you experienced this. And the OP responds saying, unfortunately, I do not. Just really in shock right now. And I'm really not sure how to face my brother knowing that he has written this. Someone else says, as someone who woke up to being assaulted by their older brother, don't use any previous good relationship as a reason to not feel scared from this. My brother never laid a hand on me before he did. It just takes one time. I definitely didn't see it coming. I would talk to your parents about what to do. Therapy may be a good idea. And then the OP posts an update post 2 days later saying, we just returned home from our vacation, and the last 2 days were hell on my imagination. I know I said in the last post that I wasn't going to do anything about it, but I found that I couldn't just sit there and pretend everything was all right. So I spoke to my brother. We were alone, though our mother was in the house. It filled with lots of crying. He basically confessed to having those fantasies, but said that he would never hurt me in real life. I only read one of the stories, and apparently many of his other works also included me. I told him that he already did, and he promised to stop publishing new ones and to get rid of / change the old ones. He asked that I not tell anyone about it. It would ruin his life, he said. And in exchange, agreed that he was going to get therapy when we both return to our colleges in the fall. It sounded fair, so I agreed. And we ended the conversation with a hug at his request. In a sense, it felt like a really weird breakup. Not sure how to better describe it. We most definitely will not be able to have what we used to have in the past. And I hope any awkwardness at future family events can be overcome by time / distance and a buttload of therapy. I'm glad it was sorted out. Although that conversation was definitely one of the most awkward ones I have ever had. Hopefully this is the only update I need, and thanks for listening. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, man, that sounds tough. Sorry you had to find that stuff out, but at least he's willing to try and get help for it. I wish you both the best of luck. And then the OP responds saying, thank you. I hope everything is settled too, and time will heal. Someone else says, be careful. Everyone here sounds optimistic, but he thinks his life is going to be ruined, and now he's lost your affection / relationship / whatever he thinks of it. He might do something drastic. Someone else says, do you share the same bathroom? If yes, please check for hidden cameras. If he fantasized about you intimately, and indeed is intimately attracted to you, he may have tried to capture images as well. And then someone replies to that saying, even if they don't share, check it, and her room. Someone else says, make sure he actually goes through with therapy, in my opinion. I think you're far more relaxed about this than I would be, admittedly. It's really disturbing he was on there sharing and possibly reading other stuff like this. It's important and disturbing on so many levels. Lock your doors and keep mace on you, in my opinion. I don't know if this is something you should keep to yourself. This stuff rarely just goes away, as it didn't just happen overnight either. Basically, please be safe. Good luck, OP. And then someone else says, doesn't sound sorted to me. That shit isn't normal. Stay away from your brother. And then someone responds to that saying, thank you. All these people cheering them on like he didn't just admit to wanting to R-word his little sister. And then another user comments saying, he is telling you what he thinks you want to hear right now. You need to tell your parents for your own safety. And I completely agree. It is very dangerous that the OP is not telling anyone else, because right now it's just between them, which is, like I said, very dangerous. The OP needs to tell someone or anyone else. And a lot of the commenters agree here. They're saying, please don't just keep this between you two. Tell someone, please, because it's very dangerous and he could still possibly act on his impulses or his weird fantasies. But let's continue on with more comments. Someone says, this is so wrong and disturbing. I'm reading a lot of comments saying, congrats on handling it. This resolved well. This isn't over. A conversation between the two of you is not handling it. You are not equipped to give your brother the help he very clearly needs, and he is almost certainly not going to seek that help on his own. The fact that he asked you to not tell and that he asked to physically touch you, hug, at all following that conversation are both huge red flags. You need to tell your parents and ideally make a police report. Guaranteed, this is not over. Even if you're unaware of future stories, this will escalate and you need to protect yourself and others. And then someone replies to that saying, yes, I'm super concerned and deeply alarmed for humanity that people are excusing him in the name of fantasy or intimate interest. This is not a generalized familial love or R-word interest. These are detailed, explicit, thought through, shared with the public fantasies about one specific person. OP should never, ever be alone with him. OP, please tell at least one other person besides him what you know, for the love of God and your personal safety. If I learned that one of my friend's brothers had done this, I would move her into my home if necessary to remove her from the situation and take her to professional counseling for professional advice. If I learned that my own brother did this, I would instantly consult a professional on what to do and cut all contact until I got solid advice from a pro. Please stay safe, OP. This is really scary stuff. And then the OP updates us nearly 2 months later, and the update is horrific. I wish I had nothing to update, but I thought I should share this here as a closure to this throwaway, in case anyone was in a similar situation. I think my brother did something to me. He left for a road trip to college 3 weeks ago before I did, and the night before he left, my parents had a cookout with our neighbors. There were drinks and I was allowed to have a glass of sangria. Next thing I know, it was the next afternoon, and my brother had already left. I was told they tried to wake me up to get me to say bye, but I was too fast asleep. And that I absolutely should watch myself if I was going to drink in college because my alcohol tolerance sucked. I woke up feeling really off, but I don't actually know what. I have a vague memory of opening my eyes to see a hand on my left wrist and someone grinding on top of me. The feeling of being pinned down comes to me in flashes, but nothing concrete. The only real evidence that something actually was wrong the next day was that my pajamas top was buttoned all the way to the top, as I usually leave it 2 buttons off. I've since moved into college and I'm hoping it really was just a nightmare. I did keep my distance and should not have been so careless, but at the same time, I don't even know what happened. I just wanted to leave this here in case this is useful for someone else. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One commenter says, you cannot, and I mean cannot, keep this a secret from anyone anymore. Your brother possibly SA'd you, or maybe even worse. There's no way a 19-year-old blacks out from 1 glass of sangria. I feel very sorry for you, and I hope you tell your parents. Your brother is not sane. You knew this from when you found his graphic writings about you. He needs to be put away for a long time. Recently, I was talking to my dad about this invisible wall he hit in his mid-30s. He's always been a high-energy guy, but suddenly, the same workouts and diet just weren't cutting it anymore. He said it felt like he was moving through mud despite using twice the effort. It made me realize that while I'm 19 right now and feeling 100%, there's a biological clock for men that nobody really warns you about until you're already in it. Most guys don't know that after age 30, you can begin losing about 1% of your testosterone every single year. But the real testosterone trap is a protein called SHBG that basically handcuffs your testosterone levels. It's like having a bunch of money in your bank, but you can't spend it. You have the resources, but you just can't access them for that extra drive or focus. So, if I was an older gentleman, I'd be using Mars Men to stay ahead of that curve. It's designed to help free up that locked up testosterone so your body can actually use it. It uses 8 natural, clinically dosed ingredients like tonka ali and shilajit, no synthetics or needles. Some men report a steadier sense of drive and a much better recovery in the gym. Unlike a caffeine crash, this is designed for consistent, natural energy throughout the day. It's made in the USA and third-party tested. They even offer a 90-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk. Though over 91% of users report feeling significantly higher energy levels. For a limited time, you guys can get 50% off for life plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts when you check out. It's also available on Amazon. And after you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Thank you so much, Mars Men, for sponsoring today's video. And now, let's get back into it. Am I the asshole for running away from home because I'm deathly terrified of my husband and son? I, 35 female, have a son, 18 male, and a husband, 45 male, who I'm attempting to divorce. I met my husband when I was 16 at the church in my hometown. At 17, he invited me over and I don't remember it well, but we ended up sleeping together. I was supposed to be cleaning his house for some extra pocket change, but ended up pregnant. I still can't remember everything that happened, but when my parents found out, they confronted him and made me marry him. I had my son not much longer after that. My husband's a brute. He was always mean to me. I tried my best to make him happy. I'd cook his favorite foods, clean the house extra nice, do childcare work to make a few dollars to buy him a treat or two. But if I made one mistake he didn't like, he'd hit me. I used to cry to my father about it, but he'd tell me it's my punishment for having premarital relations. I'd ask my father what my husband's punishment was, and he'd say his punishment is having to settle for you. I don't think I ever recovered from that. Before anyone asked about my mother, she's always been kind of out of it. She's been on medication since I was a child, and she's kind of like a zombie. She doesn't talk much or do much of anything unless my father says so. She was different when I was little, but I hardly remember those days. The hitting got worse, to the point where I wasn't really allowed to leave the house. If I did, I had to wear makeup or else my husband would think I was trying to get him in trouble. My son grew up watching this. I've heard stories of kids hating their abusive fathers, but my son loved his father more than he loved me. I never wanted my son to hate his father, but he started acting out, and eventually he started laying hands on me too. My son started hitting me when he was 10. It was light, and I'd tell him to stop, but as he got older, he started beating me. If I told him no, he'd beat me. If I didn't do something he wanted, he'd slap or kick or even punch me. And my husband would back him up a lot of the time. He'd say, "He's just learning to be a man. He'll stop when he's older and has his own wife." It got to the point where I was terrified of my baby. The only thing in this world I ever got to make, and he terrified me. When he was 16, he broke my arm really bad because I showed my husband his report card. My husband disciplined him, but never told me how. I grew to hate my son so much every day, but I still tried to be good to him, to help him. He didn't want that. I couldn't make him want that. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep without dreaming of my son and husband hurting me. My son once pinned me on the ground because I had asked him to help me lift something. I'm frail, so I can't lift much. When he pinned me, he hit me a lot, and I could feel it. Hurting me aroused him. He rubbed up against me for a few seconds, and then he started screaming at me, saying it was all my fault, and locked himself in his room. I didn't tell my husband. I should have, but somehow I felt like I just would have gotten hurt worse by one of them. He was 17 when this happened, so last year. After his 18th birthday in January, I packed a bag and wandered off into the night. I don't have friends. My father wouldn't help me, even if I told him these things. I slept on a park bench and went to the library and looked up a woman's shelter. I worked really hard and got a studio apartment. I don't know how, but my son found me. He spent hours at my door, knocking and crying for me, calling me mama. He hadn't called me that in years. I was terrified he'd break the door down and drag me back to the house, but my neighbors made him leave. My son has also gotten my number somehow. Now he, my husband, my father, and some of my son's friends are texting me and calling me horrible names. My son says I'm a bad mother for running away and not loving him the way he loves me. My husband says he won't grant me a divorce and that he'll take whatever I have right now and that I failed as a woman. My father says I'll die alone because I'm a bad woman. My father even got my mother on the phone to speak to me. She's all pilled out though, so I shouldn't take her words to heart. But she says that a woman can never abandon her child, no matter how painful life gets. She told me when my father hurt her, she never left me. So I was a coward and a failure for leaving my son. She said she could forgive divorce, but not leaving my baby behind. Am I the asshole? And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, please block everyone. Keep repeating this. I will no longer allow anyone to hit me or say mean things to me. You need protection and help to escape. You can file for a restraining order for all of the horrible people in your life. Please find a domestic violence shelter. I hope someone here has better advice. Honestly, your ex telling you he won't give you a divorce? Who cares? You can file for divorce and his compliance is not required. They have terrified you into submission. Their power over you is not absolute. And then someone replies saying, this is 100% true. The OP can and should file for divorce. The men in her previous life sound very dangerous, so I am almost certain a judge would grant a restraining order. And then the OP responds saying, I feel like if I tried to get a restraining order, they would all just deny everything and make me feel crazy. I don't think I'll be able to get one. I don't feel like I have good enough proof. Another commenter says, congrats on getting away. Ditch this phone and get a burner. Stay off social media. Don't renew the lease on this place. Look for another. Get some resource help from a DV shelter if you can find one. Do any work you can find. Legally change your name. Ditch the old burner and get a new one. When you get the name change and the new place, do not get any deliveries. Use a P.O. box only. Keep a go bag and most of your money in cash. Reset your life. For you and you alone, you can do it. And the OP responds saying, I kind of like this idea way better than all of the other ones. Another user says, he doesn't have to grant you a divorce. My ex-husband wouldn't sign the papers, and after 2 years, I was granted the divorce. I'm very proud of you for leaving this abusive situation. It takes a lot. You have been manipulated since you were a child that you deserve to be treated poorly. You don't. You deserve to be treated kindly and with love. I'm sorry that your family is completely awful. I hope you have found support to help you through this. If not, I hope you have a therapist who can assist you. But you know you're going to have to move and change your number, and I know that's awful as well." And the OP responds saying, "I know this is weird to say, but these comments have been better friends to me than anyone else I could possibly think of. I didn't know that you didn't need both parties' consent for a divorce until today, actually. Maybe I'm a bit slow for that, but thank you so much." Another commenter says, "You were 16 and he was 26. So much to unpack here. You were manipulated and you're not a bad person for having premarital relations. Absolutely disgusting that your husband beats you. And as for your son, I'm truly sorry. You despising him is not wrong. You have been abused by your dad, husband, and son, and maybe mom. You are in every right to leave them. You've been isolated to the point where you don't have any friends now and any support, and I'm truly sorry for that. You are nowhere near in the wrong, so please don't think that. Your safety is what's important. Maybe try to pack as much evidence of being abused by them. Please leave that situation as soon as you can. You're strong for even trying to leave in the first place and even wanting to now. No one should ever lay a hand on you, and I truly hope you're able to leave. I'm so sorry you're going through this right now." And the OP responds saying, "I've never thought about it like this." And then the OP makes 2 edits to their post saying, "While I have no issues responding to comments, the idea of replying to personal messages terrifies me for some reason. Please don't get upset if I don't message you. I don't mean to be weird." Edit 2. I've been reading a lot of comments and I'm grateful and very overwhelmed. I won't get too specific, but I just packed an essentials bag and have purchased a ticket for out of town. I got off the phone with a shelter a few thousand miles away, and they are willing to get me once I arrive in their city. I'll figure out divorces and restraining orders once I'm finally there. Until then, I'll read comments to see if there are any more useful things to learn. Luckily, my studio is on a month-to-month lease because I had never really planned on making this a permanent home. So leaving isn't as hard as I thought. Running away the first time was hard, but maybe the second time will be easier. And then the OP gives us an update a little while later, saying, "Here's a small update, and I likely won't update again due to being nervous about everything, but I'm on the bus. I got on this morning and I'm about 5 hours away from the state, and then I'll be getting on a plane. I had enough money for a ticket, so I'll be super far away. I won't work on the divorce until a few months from now, and I have a small job lined up. It's nothing special. Just a $12 an hour fast food gig. I'm grateful for all of the advice. My old landlord was sorry to see me go, but I paid off this month's rent and told him he can sell the little bit of furniture I had. He said he'd give me half of that money once it's all sold. He's very kind, a little scary looking, but when I spoke to him over the phone after I had left, he was very understanding. Thank you for everything, and I'm sorry, but this is the last thing anyone will hear from me unless I work up the nerve to update again. You are all incredibly wonderful and special people to me." And the OP did end up giving us an update 4 months later, which reads as follows. I know it hasn't been that long, but it feels like it has. I just want you all to know I'm fine. I have a roommate now. She's a lovely older lady who plays piano. She's been allowing me to rent a bedroom from her, and all I have to do is pay $300 a month and help her around the house when I'm not working. I have a divorce lawyer who's been dandy with me, though it's a little difficult since my husband is so far away and not being kind about it since I won't communicate with him outside a lawyer. My son hasn't come close to finding me at all, though I do miss him sometimes. I mean, I gave birth to him. It's hard to be strong about my feelings regarding him, but I know I'll never allow myself to be near him again, no matter how sad I feel about it. My roommate is around 59 and she's a lovely baker. She teaches me all of these lovely recipes for cobbler and so on. I know it's weird, but I feel like she's the first real friend I've had since I was a small child. I haven't tried dating. I don't think I will. I also tried weed for the first time. Absolutely pleasant. My roommate's got it for me. She uses it for her back pain, but I use it for bed. It helps me sleep without night terrors. I feel like I'm learning what life is now, and I actually love it. And then the OP posts a while after saying, the divorce is still pending, but my lawyer says that things are looking in my favor. Recently, I joined a small book club in my town, and I've started socializing with other women my age. It's so exciting. Some of the books we're reading are a bit risque, but it's all very fun to me. My roommate hasn't been doing the best though. She's gotten very sick and it's making me really sad. I finally got a car and for the first time my driver's license. So I've been taking her back and forth to the doctors and got to meet her children. They're a little younger than me, but they're all kind and call me their big sister. They're all in their mid-20s. They've been grateful that I've been helping her out and invited me to a family dinner that her eldest daughter's hosting for her youngest daughter's baby shower. I'm super excited because her eldest daughter is allowing me to help cook for everything and I love cooking. I'm also super excited because I got to meet the eldest daughter's toddlers and I absolutely adore children. Life feels all right. I've even thought about trying to date after my therapist says I'm ready for it. That's gonna be ages down the road though. I hope you're all doing well. And that is the last update we have received from the OP, but this is a pretty rare, happy-ish ending. I mean, obviously, the first post that the OP made was horrifying and terrible and just horrific. But at the end there, I mean, the OP said it themselves. They're starting to enjoy life and love it, which is just really good to see. Because, I mean, in that first post, we saw that the OP's husband and even her son was beating her and starting to take an attraction towards her, which is just horrific. And her father wouldn't listen and her mom was on pills and drugged up. I mean, that is such a horrible situation, and this could have gotten a lot worse. This could have gone a lot worse. The OP could have, gone back to them and gone back to the abusive situation because that happens a lot of the time in these situations. But luckily, the OP was able to get a job lined up, get her own apartment, and get away, thousands of miles away, and start their life up for real this time and start enjoying and loving their life. And I just really hope that the OP is doing better now and all things are well. A friend of mine broke into my house, put her stuff at random places to make it look like she's been a tenant. Cops arrive, finds her stuff all over the place, and so of course they won't remove her. What do I do now? And man, that's one hell of a title, but let's get into it. I have a friend who called me last night asking for a place to stay. I politely told her no. She's 25. I'm 19, and I should mention she's a narcissistic bitch. Today, I was over at my cousin's place this morning, and when I came home a couple of hours ago, I found this lady inside my house. No signs of a break-in from the outside. I ask her how she got in, and she tells me through the back window. I tell her I never gave you permission to come here and that she needs to leave immediately. And she says, deal with it. I call the cops and tell them that there's a person who got inside my house without my permission and that I need an officer to come and remove her. A couple of minutes later, they arrive and here's what happens. She tells them, I know my rights, officers. I've been a legal tenant in this house for 2 months now, and you can't just remove me. I can go around, show you my clothes in the wardrobe, my toothbrush and my conditioner in the bathroom, and all of my other stuff. They take a walk with her, and all of her fucking stuff is all over my house. She fucking broke into my house, put her stuff all over so that the cops would think she's been a tenant. The next thing they tell me is that I have to serve her with an eviction notice and that they can't legally remove her since she's considered a tenant. I didn't even know what to tell them as I felt so dumbfounded and shocked I was set up like this. I was silent for a few seconds, and so they tried to explain how the law works to me, but since I just kept looking at them in silence, not believing myself, they just proceed to leave. I'm so pissed. I'm in California, so I can't even record her confessing to what she's done. If I can do that under an exception, I could easily do it because apparently she has no problem admitting it when the cops aren't there. I'm not, however, going to do so if they lead to more problems. I've also thought about calling 911 or the non-emergency line and telling the operator about the situation so that the call would be recorded and then make my friend confess about it. Can I do that? Me and the operator are aware of the call being recorded. I think it still would be unlawful. How do I get this bitch out without having to serve her eviction notice? Isn't that against the law what she did there? Isn't this fraud? I've thought about trying to prove that she's been living somewhere else before, but I don't know what to do. This is fucked up. I'm really sorry about my language, but I'm really feeling so angry, and I'm trying to be as calm as much as I can while she's in my house using my stuff, and I can't do shit about it. Thanks. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Me and the operator are aware of the call being recorded. I think it would still be unlawful. The commenter was quoting the OP there, and the commenter responds saying, yes, because the person being recorded doesn't consent. How do I get this lady out without having to serve her an eviction notice? The commenter quotes the OP again and says, if the police won't take action, eviction is all you have. And the OP responds saying, even if I found a way to prove she wasn't living here, so what? Now I can go to any of my friends' house and put my stuff there and basically live for free? If I eventually get proof she faked this, what can I do at that point? And someone responds to that saying, it's difficult to prove a negative, especially given that she didn't have another place to stay. Still, if you believe you have that evidence, you can try the police again. But if the police don't do anything, eviction is your only option. And the OP responds saying, so basically anyone can go break in anywhere at a friend's house and this would work? This is ridiculous. And someone else responds saying, tenants are given broad protection against being kicked out. This is a good thing. In your case, you have a situation where someone isn't a tenant, but looks exactly like a tenant. That sucks, but it's an edge case, a one-off. It just doesn't happen that often. So yeah, in the extremely rare circumstance that someone breaks into your home with no damage and scatters enough stuff around to look like a tenant, you get a little boned. It sucks, but the worst thing you can do is compound it by trying to kick her out without the eviction. And I would just have to disagree with that commenter there. Like, she doesn't look like a tenant. There's no sort of lease or contract that was signed. Like, literally, this person just walked into the home without any sort of proof other than her stuff being there. Like, to me, that makes zero sense. Like, of course, it's good for tenants in an apartment building or a condo building or a house or a leased apartment or house or whatever to not just be kicked out willy-nilly by the landlord. But usually they have a contract, and so that makes sense. Here, this makes no sense. This could be anyone just breaking into their house, and she shows up and is like, who are you? And they just have her stuff everywhere, and it makes it okay. To me, that just seems ridiculous. And God, that's just, I feel so bad for the OP because the OP doesn't have her house anymore. There's this basically stranger living there that the OP doesn't like. But let's continue on with some more comments. Someone says, I'm going to go in a completely different direction and suggest you get a protection order. This woman is dangerous and completely out of touch with reality. If I were you, I would be very, very scared. Go down to the court and fill out an order for temporary protection. The form will ask you if you two live in the same house. Say no. Put in her last known address. You should get her ordered to stay away from you. And she will not be able to enter the apartment, as it will be breaking the order. If you need to call the police, you can call and tell them you have an order of protection against this person, and they will make her leave. You do not want a residence exclusion order, which requires actual violence. You want a stay away order. Another user says, that friend is a dangerous person. This is some next level sociopathy. OP, secure valuables. Lock credit against ID theft. Also, if OP wants for friend to leave house, can OP just throw all friend's shit out on the street? Friend calls police and says I was illegally evicted. OP says friend has no proof of being a resident. If OP can make police call it civil matter, so friend has no choice but to sue, then OP should be okay, but ready to be sued by a sociopath. And the OP commented saying the cops already came and said that she's a tenant. I can't do any of this. And God, this is just such a nightmare for the OP. Truly, like, this is nightmarish. The OP's life has just been flipped upside down, and now they need to worry about this and go through a whole eviction process, which will take a long time. But luckily, the OP gives us an update the next day, which reads as follows. I texted one of her friends on Instagram, who I know is close to her, and explained what happened. She gave me her boyfriend's name on Facebook and told me to talk to him to see if he can come over and persuade her to leave. I've reached him and we got on the phone a few minutes ago. He said he can come over after work and see what he can do. Is there anything I should do before he comes here? Do I start recording video? Do I call the cops instead? Do I bring in a third witness? I'm really afraid if this ever turns into a DV of some sort, if any of them decides to do anything stupid. Keep in mind, I'm 19 and both of them are well over my age by a lot. And no shit, I totally forgot how young the OP is here. Like the OP is not even like an adult. I mean, like, obviously this is a nightmare for anyone, but the OP's like a kid still, like a teenager, and they have to deal with this now. This is truly so horrifying. I mean, like, I'm 19. I can't imagine ever having to deal with this. Like, I don't own my own house, but still, you know, like, if I did and I had to deal with this crazy friend of mine that broke into my house and claimed she lived there, and now you need to deal with this, and they're like 25, 26, that is really strange and really honestly scary. This is dangerous. This could easily, escalate into a dangerous situation because obviously the OP's quote unquote friend who broke in is not mentally well. But now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, it's time to call on a friend, a close one. I would propose your mom, actually. Middle-aged women often have a magical violence desalinating effect on unknown quantities. The point is someone calm, very calm. You don't need another voice here. You need a witness. If all goes well, I would suggest you lock the door behind her, and this time lock your window. The problem with that, of course, is the cops have already decided she lives there. So if she calls them claiming you locked her out, you're SOL. In these circumstances, it might be worth the risk. Can you begin accumulating evidence she did not live there as of yesterday? Call friends and family who can verify you lived alone or who can say where she lived. Instagrams of her taking pictures of her place. Facebook posts where she indicates where she lives or implied is not with you. Like, can I come over? From a few days ago would be great. Once you're done with her, don't ever talk to her again. That's it. This is a new level of crazy, and it's going to burn everything it touches. And then the OP responded saying, I didn't tell my mom about any of this yet because she worries a lot about me and she already has a lot of issues going on, so I didn't want to put any more pressure on her. I think I have to call her now though. And then the OP responds to this question of, can you begin accumulating evidence she did not live there as of yesterday? And the OP responds to that sort of question saying, when I looked up her Instagram account, I found lots of pictures in Arizona that she was dumb enough to have them tagged with location. The pictures were taken within the past month. I took screenshots as well as archiving them like a web version. I also wrote down a transcript of how the conversation went down when she called me asking to stay at my place and I refused. I've screenshotted the conversation with a friend as well. And then another commenter asked saying, why didn't you follow the advice in the previous post and pursue a restraining order? And the OP responded saying, I should have done this, but I didn't. Someone mentioned that I should try and contact one of her friends or family and let them try and talk to her, and so that's what I did. I'm hoping it works. If not, I'll go file the restraining order. And then the OP posts an update 1 day later, which reads as follows. First of all, I want to explain what happened, apologize, and thank all of you. Long story short, as soon as her boyfriend came in, she started crying hysterically. I told them that I'm video recording them through my phone, but they seemed uninterested in what I said. She started blaming him for all sorts of stuff. He kept apologizing a lot, and after what seemed like an eternity, she packed her stuff up and they were both gone. Now I've written down on a piece of paper all your different advice. I will file a restraining order against her. I will also go file a police report and talk to the sheriff explaining everything that happened. I've documented all I could. I have screenshots of her Instagram account with the pictures tagged to AZ, plus the video of her and her boyfriend arguing in my house and then packing and leaving together. My mom's main concern right now is getting the protective order ASAP and installing an alarm system in my house. She said she'll be staying with me until we can get a company to install an alarm system on Monday. Thank you guys for suggesting to call my mom. It made me feel safer while she was here. Apology. I know how annoying it was for you guys to keep giving me advice that I should file the restraining order and go to the police, only to find me not do any of them but invite a stranger into my house. My mom also pointed out how badly this could have gone with her boyfriend coming here. And that is the last update we have received from the OP. And to be honest, I think that is the best case scenario on how that ended, with the OP's friend or the lady living in her house just leaving and hopefully never coming back. My boyfriend comes home injured every day and he won't tell me why. I, 26 female, live with my boyfriend who's 23 male, and he is the love of my life. He's always been honest with me about everything. But recently, I feel like he's hiding something bad from me, because for 2 months, every time he returns home after work, he's bruised and injured. Not like a small injury, but really visible injuries like bruises, cuts on his abdomen, legs, bad injuries. The worst injury he had was 13 days ago. He came home at midnight and I was still awake doing some work, and his whole hair and face was messed up. He has a middle part and it was like some of it was cut off, and he had bad swelling in his cheekbone area. He also had a black eye. When I saw him, I was trying to ask him what happened to him, and he just told me he didn't want to talk about it. I've tried to do anything to just get some more information from him, but he refuses to give me any. He keeps telling me not to worry about it. I've told him I'd also go to the police to report what's happening to him, but he's pleaded me every time to not, or else he'd break up with me. I'm so worried for him, and I feel like I can't do anything. He hasn't done anything to deserve any of this, and I've been trying to come up with anything, but I can't. He truly is a person who lives a simple life. The only reason I've come up with it is that my boyfriend is one of the few minorities in a very conservative city, but even then he has friends, connections, etc. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, I bet he owes someone money. And the OP responds saying, I really doubt that. He's never been the type of person to do something like that. And as far as I know, he isn't in any type of serious debt. Another user comments saying, LMAO, then how the hell is he getting so injured? Is he part of a fight club? What else does he do for work? And the OP responds saying, pediatric nursing. Another user comments saying, it sounds like he's an immigrant since you say his mom still lives in Vietnam. If he immigrated to the US illegally, it would explain why he doesn't want to go to the police and how he might owe money to bad people, despite being a hardworking person who is not involved in shady stuff. This is sheer speculation, so take it with a grain of salt. I don't know what to do about it, but maybe an immigration lawyer would help. And the OP responds saying, he was born in the US. His mom just moved back to Vietnam with the rest of his family to take care of them. He told me he lived with his grandfather, but he sadly passed away 2 years ago. And another user says, if you're close to his mom or brother or sister, then tell them. Maybe they'll help you out. To me, it seems like he's gotten himself into bad business and he's too ashamed to tell you about it. And the OP responds saying, he's an only child. His mom is also really hard to communicate with. I don't blame her, but she lives in Vietnam still, and she speaks basically no English. Going off of that, I'm not sure she even knows what's going on in my boyfriend's life living so far away. And then we get an update a few days later, about 3 days later, which reads as follows. I asked my boyfriend yesterday about what was really going on, and I threatened to rope in my family, the police, and break up with him. I told him he was jeopardizing my own safety, and he had to tell me. After a lot of stalling, he eventually told me what it was. He's in a fight club. I guess the jokes were right. He's actually in a fight club like the movie. However, it's more complicated than just he's bored. He told me his family in Vietnam, specifically his mom, are pressuring him a lot to give them more and more money. They have told him that if he doesn't give them enough, they'll cut contact with him. And even though we both have pretty good jobs, he was struggling to reach their demands and didn't ask me for money. He heard about the fight club from his friends, and at first he thought it wasn't any good. But he told me he was getting really stressed from his family situation, and getting hit would relieve some of it. And once he heard money was on the line, he decided to join in. That's the reason he refused to say anything about it, because, like the movie, he followed the first rule of Fight Club. That's also why he comes home sad. He's only using the Fight Club as a way to cope and earn some money on the side. That's also somewhat the reason he would plead me to not contact the police whenever I told him I would. Even though the actual Fight Club itself isn't illegal, a lot of illegal activities like drugs were being done in and of itself. I've talked to him about helping him with some money or therapy, but he told me he wants to deal with his issues himself. He told me he doesn't want me to stress myself out just to help him. For now, I'll stay off, but I told him I'll be helping myself by helping him if he's in a bad situation. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, unless you're fine staying in a relationship with someone who is very like to suffer from many concussions going forward, I recommend telling him to either cut off his family and stop fighting or leave him. CTE is no joke, and I'm fairly certain these underground fights don't have paramedics on standby in case of an injury. He's going down a path that he will be lucky to walk away from with massive lasting physical and mental damage, if he's lucky enough to walk away at all. And the OP responds saying, the worst thing is my boyfriend doesn't have any type of MMA background. He doesn't really know what he's doing. Another user says, I know your boyfriend wants to do this for his family in the name of tradition, but he shouldn't do it at the expense of his safety. To defy the laws of tradition is a crusade only of the brave. And the OP responds saying, I told him that too. And he said he'd try, but it's going to be a while. Because he showed me just some of the payments he's given to his family, and holy fuck, the amount he's giving could actually pay some of our bills. And that is the last update we have received from the OP, because the OP's account has since been deleted. But man, that is a wild, wild post. And it's just insane how her boyfriend is in a fight club earning money to send money to his family. But who knows what ended up happening. I wonder if he stayed in the fight club fighting, or he kind of came to his senses and realized that's very dangerous and he could easily die or get severely injured. But who knows? I caught noises that wasn't me. Originally posted to r/RBI, and the post reads as follows. So for a while, my husband has been saying that someone is watching us. He took apart a lot of things, covered up vents, and went up to the crawl space, but found nothing. His excuse was he hears someone walking around at night, moving stuff, noises, voices, and things disappear or move around. We live in a really small 2-bedroom duplex and can regularly hear the neighbors, but can never catch their noises on our indoor cameras. He recently bought a few microphones to record while we sleep, and you can hear stuff being moved around. Footsteps and people whispering. He says it wasn't him and was blaming it on me, that I'm seeing someone. I am not. I listened to the audio and you can hear movement for sure. He set up 3 different spots. Please tell me there might be a more logical explanation. I was initially thinking about taking him to be evaluated for schizophrenia, but, well, he actually did get something recorded. He says someone might be coming in or hiding somewhere, etc. But like I said, our place is really small, and the only spot to get in and out of is the top crawl space is from my kids' room. Their door is very loud, and we can hear when they open it. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says he took apart a lot of things, like taking apart electronic equipment, looking for spy cams. That would be a mental health issue. And the OP responds saying, yep, exactly what I said to him, which is why I tried convincing him to get evaluated. I'm at my wit's ends and don't know if me hearing these noises in the recorded audio is just me that he's gotten in my head. I'm going to get more people to listen to it for me as well. And then someone else replies to that saying, this unfortunately sounds very, very like crystal abuse. Crystal, the drug. It isn't weird to have sounds on a recording of an occupied house that shares a wall with neighbors, even if you were asleep. It is weird to assume that sounds in an occupied house that shares a wall with neighbors are evidence of an affair, and to start taking apart electronics to prove it. You cannot reason people out of this type of paranoia. I was an ER nurse for years, and we once had a patient bloody his own fingers trying to remove a sharps box from the wall of a room because he was sure someone was hiding behind it talking to him. It was Crystal, not a haunted sharps box. Were there sounds in the ER? Sure, but someone is talking to me from behind the sharps box, as the conclusion to jump to from that is not rational. My wife is letting people in while I'm asleep, and knowing that our house is being surveilled is nearly as irrational as that. And the OP responds saying, I hope I can convince him to do a drug test for me. But every comment saying Crystal has me doing research, and now I'm thinking that's the case. Another user says, I agree with others that your husband needs to see a doctor. Given the fact that you have close neighbors whom you can regularly hear, it's concerning that when your husband hears noises, he doesn't assume the neighbors are the source. Instead, he sets up recording devices and accuses you of cheating. Does he honestly think you have a secret lover who's sneaking into the bedroom in the middle of the night while he is sleeping? Silently? Via the kid's crawl space like a freaking ninja? This is severe unhealthy paranoia. What does he say / how does he react when you tell him that the noises are not you and you're not seeing someone? Does he believe you? Does he treat you like you and he are on the same team and ask you to help him figure out these mysterious noises? Or is he acting belligerent like he doesn't trust anyone, including you? And the OP responds to this saying, so he believes me, he says. We talk it out, but it's been at least 3 times where he accuses me of cheating and bringing someone in while he's in the house. Like I said, the house is really small. I would be a fool to do something like that. But he calms down after I assure him it's not me, and he says he believes me, but then he does it again. He does ask to help him figure it out, but when I bring the idea of seeking professional help, he gets upset, saying I think he's crazy. But I've let him figure it out as well, as I have nothing to hide. It's very exhausting though. And then another user comments saying, this sounds like a phase I went through while I was smoking a lot of crystal. And the OP responded saying, drug test is on my list of things to do now. And then someone else says, I think he needs to see a doctor. And unfortunately, that is the last update we've received from the OP, but I just thought that first post was so interesting, I just had to include it. And we can speculate in the comments, you guys can speculate. But what do you guys think? Do you think the OP's husband was on crystal? People really did seem to think that. Or do you think he has some sort of mental illness? Or do you think someone is actually breaking in and living in their crawl space? I mean, no one was even entertaining that theory. And for some reason, no one really thought about or suggested the mental health angle. More of just he was a drug addict or using drugs, which is interesting. Now, no one thought it could be, schizophrenia or something like that. That wasn't a theory I saw a lot in the comments. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's mental illness or just drug use? Or is someone actually breaking into the home and making noises? But I do find it very concerning that there's whispering and stuff actually being moved around. So who's moving stuff around? And I'm kind of curious if that's the OP and her husband's things being moved around, or it's the sounds of things being moved around, if that makes sense. Because if things are being moved around their home and neither of them are doing that, then that's pretty concerning. Unless the OP's husband is just doing it. But I don't know. Very, very weird post. And I wish we had an update, but unfortunately we don't. And leave your thoughts down below in the comments, and on to the next one. I, 24 female, think I'm being stalked, and I can't tell by how many people. Originally posted to r/creepy encounters and originally posted on March 7th, 2026, and let's get into it. Reposted to breakup text wall. Burner account, obviously. I know the title sounds paranoid, but please bear with me. I work full-time at a public university in the US as an office manager, and am enrolled in grad school at the same institution. I graduate this May. I have in-person night classes 3 days a week that start right after I get off work. My apartment is on the first floor of a complex about 10 minutes away. Over the past few months, I've had numerous bizarre occurrences around my home and workplace. The first, to my knowledge, was in September, and was something my neighbor across the hall, very sweet older woman, told me. A man was banging on my door for around an hour just after midnight. I was not home. My neighbor poked her head out to ask him what was going on, and he said he was a DoorDasher with no food or bags in his hands, apparently. My neighbor watched him through the peephole and told me he tried the doorknob multiple times. No Ring camera or anything, so no footage. As far as I know, he didn't come back. But I've also had 3 or 4 instances over this several month period where someone knocked on my bedroom window, blackout curtains always closed, late at night loud enough to wake me and my tiny dog. Never saw who it was. In October, a woman came to my sliding glass door about a month later, demanding to come in because her stolen device had apparently been pinging my apartment. When I refused, she called the sheriff's department. The deputy who came asked me a couple of questions and left, but did confirm that a device was pinging my apartment. Never found out if she meant a phone or what. The woman hung out in the parking lot before leaving a few minutes later. Obviously, I've never stolen any phone, so I was completely bewildered. I never saw her again. In December, things came to a head when I found a plug-in GPS tracker in the OBD, which is onboard diagnostics, port under my dashboard. Car dealership where I got service last said they didn't use that brand, Land Air C, and yes, I have the model and serial number, and didn't perform any services that would have warranted putting it in there. I called the cops and they just wrote down a few details and left. University police were also informed since the tracker was probably placed either on campus or at my apartment. The tracker was the biggest red flag. I never checked my OBD port, so I have no idea how long it was there. I told my unit director, and he offered to subtly remove mentions of me around the office and on the website, which I accepted. I am, however, posted up at the office front desk for like 80% of my day. This past Tuesday, right before I left for lunch, a middle-aged man came into the office wearing a hairnet, surgical mask, hoodie, and sunglasses. He claimed to be a prospective student and had questions about FAFSA. He was extremely hard to understand. I directed him to the financial aid office across campus, and he kept asking questions that our office cannot answer. I thought, sure, fine, maybe harmless and just not all there mentally. He walks over to our coffee machine, not for communal use by the way, but I didn't want to be a bitch, and just starts making coffee. He's still there when I leave, and one of my staff watches the desk while I'm out. When I return from lunch, he's gone, but walks in after me a few minutes later and just sits in the lobby on his phone before getting up to leave almost immediately. I was off work Wednesday and Thursday, so I came in Friday. I felt like giving my mostly undergrad staff a break, so I gave them permission to head home early, inadvertently leaving me alone in the office. The man came back wearing the exact same clothes, mask, hairnet, and sunglasses within 5 minutes of the office clearing out. Our office is technically open to the public, but isn't really public facing, and he had no reason for being there, especially that late in the day. He came in, barely acknowledged me, and said he was going to bring back bottled water for our coffee machine. He left again. I'm very creeped out by this, so I messaged my director, working remotely, and he got an IT guy from the adjacent building to come over with his laptop to keep me company. I explained the situation, and he said he'd stay with me until close. He settles in my director's office just around the corner, but it still looked like I was alone. The man does come back without water and leans against the desk trying to start a conversation with me. IT guy comes around the corner and stands between me and him, and he quickly changes the subject and asks about financial aid again, for the fourth time in as many days, before being directed away and leaving immediately. I'm strongly considering informing campus police about this. Like I said, they already know about the tracker. I've had problems in the past during my undergrad years at a different institution with men and a woman being creepy towards me, but nothing to this level. I have no idea what to do. I can't tell what's isolated and what's connected. My family lives an hour away and has been no help at all. I have a sinking feeling that things are going to escalate. Any advice on what I should do or change at home, work, or elsewhere is appreciated. I'm open to further questions. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, "It is all isolated. Please speak with a psychiatrist." So this commenter thinks the OP is crazy, I guess. But the OP comments saying, "I'm not going to have a psychotic break. Other people close to me have told me that this is all weird and I was right to report it." Another commenter says, "Buy security cameras or a Ring camera for the front door. Tasers are cheap on Amazon, and there's companies that sell knives disguised as pens or combs. I have several of those. You might also want to check out those devices that reveal/ping on electronics secretly placed in apartments/houses to record people. What did the woman look like who came to your sliding door?" And the OP responds saying, "I remember her being very skinny and tanned with hair dyed platinum blonde. I also have a gun that I CC pretty much wherever it's legal, but never on campus, and CC means concealed carry." Another commenter says, "Get a friend or neighbor to check in on you every day. Can you vary the way you go home every day?" And the OP responds saying, "It's pretty much a straight shot home, but I can take the longer route or zigzag a little. Unfortunately, it's highly likely that the tracker logged my workplace and home already." Another commenter says, "Definitely inform campus police to start your paper trail. I'm very paranoid when it comes to any paperwork, so I'd ask for copies of the police report regarding that lady. And ask for a copy after you tell campus police. Make sure it's in writing about the tracker too. Are there cameras in the office also?" And then the OP responds to this comment saying, "Both county and campus police know all there is to know about the tracker, but are yet to be filled in on the office visitor. The hallway cameras will have captured what he is doing in the building, but not in the office itself." Another commenter says, "Was a victim of stalking by an ex for over 2 years. Do you have anyone in your past that was abusive or took a breakup hard? Anyone with access to flying monkeys? The tracker is most concerning to me. If you found one, there might be another. I had 2 on my car. One of them was under the driver's seat. Never did find the other one before the ex made the car go bye-bye. Took it from in front of the courthouse, by the way, while I was inside filing a restraining order. He even had another ex of his, who he reconciled with, stalk me. Weird AF, eh? The tracker I found under the seat was a small, white, unmarked box that looked like it belonged with the car. Wired in, but what clued me in was duct tape on the wiring around the side of the seat. I would also have your apartment checked for bugs. Be aware of conversations you have with others, and if someone brings up an off-the-wall topic that you've spoken with someone else about in the recent time frame, sure sign of a bug. Cell phones can also be bugged these days, and you don't have to click on any links or answer any calls to have it happen. You need cameras for sure, and enforcers for your doors. Check the screws on the wall part of your door. If they're the short screws, then reinforce with long screws. Amazon also sells gadgets that go from door handle to floor and will make it harder for anyone to get in. If you have a sliding glass doors, put a 2x4 in the slider where the door is shut to prevent entry. Do the same with your windows if possible. Keep faux bats in every room. baseball bats for their grill. Protect yourself. Document everything. I still don't leave my home with less than 3 self-protection items on my person in different locations. Pepper spray is worthless, by the way. I doused the crap out of him one night and he was still able to get a hold of me and sit on me before it started affecting him. He could have killed me in the time it took. When walking through parking lots, keep your shoulders back and your head on a swivel. Make sustained eye contact with anyone that makes you feel off. You got this, but you have to do the heavy lifting right now. The universe will take care of the rest. And the OP responds saying, car seems to be clear of anything else, as is my apartment. Had a friend search them up and down with me. I don't think there's anyone in my past who would do this, so I think it was someone I'm not close with or a total stranger. I also have a gun that I always conceal carry except on campus. I trust it over pepper spray any day, but I have no choice but to invest in non-lethal for work. I'm sorry to hear you had such a horrible experience. And another commenter says, the Invisible Man is highly suspicious, and you should definitely report him. Mask, hairnet, hoodie, and sunglasses in a non-public area, not giving good reason to be there, is huge cause for concern. I suggest a doorbell and dash cam camera, and get someone you trust to walk you to and from your car at work. The random woman incident may or may not be related, but you did the right thing to remain cautious. The window knocking could also just be idiots, but again, you are right to ignore it just in case. And then the OP makes an update post nearly 2 weeks later, which reads as follows. Hey everyone, I am alive and well, but not exactly relieved. I got a lot of great advice on my first post and wanted to let you guys know what had all happened and what I've done. It's been a lot. The 2 incidents that I and the most everyone else were concerned about were the tracker and the office visitor. First off, the owner of the tracker in my car has been identified and is totally harmless. I called Land Air Sea, and they told me that it was, in fact, the car dealership's device that somehow kept getting unplugged and plugged back in. I guess they assumed it was mine every time it was serviced. When I initially called them in December, the dealership swore up and down it wasn't theirs, so I'm really irritated that they were so adamant in their denial. The Land Air Sea rep I spoke to was very understanding as to why this would be concerning, and even said he was surprised the police didn't subpoena the company when I reported it. Regardless, that at least crosses the tracker off the list of issues. As for the office visitor, it's unfortunately an ongoing concern that has escalated. I called campus police last Monday, March 9th, and they explained that my director had reported the guy to them already the day before I made my first post. Police didn't tell me much aside from the fact that his behavior seemed extremely unusual and that he disappeared once officers arrived at the building. They gave me the usual spiel about how I should call the police for a police escort if I feel unsafe. I had to get the rest from my director and one of my staff. Apparently, this guy had not only been hanging out around the building, but had been lingering for a long time on the bench just outside my office. I can't see it where I'm sitting. At various points throughout the week, including when I was there. I also cleaned out that coffee machine thoroughly and put it back in the room. Doesn't really look like he messed with it. He came back Friday, March 13th at almost exactly the same time at the previous week. By a stroke of sheer fucking luck, I was already in the back conference room before he saw me. I snapped the attached picture of him speaking to a male staff member at the desk and quietly locked myself in my director's office. He was working remotely again. I called campus PD and texted my director. I could hear the man and my staff talking briefly about the guy, and he left immediately. He didn't linger like he does with me at the desk. Both the arriving office and the division leader, my director's boss, whom my director alerted, arrived quickly and knocked on my door, obviously concerned. The officer communicated to me that he will be found and trespassed. He has not shown up in our public trespass warning record, so I guess that went nowhere. that wasn't the end of it. This Monday, March 16th, we were expecting severe weather, so campus was closed and remote work was permitted. My director, however, decided to work from the office. He saw the man again, but this time he was accompanied by 4 or 5 other men in the halls. My director is a very large man, so they scattered quickly when he barked at them to leave. He told me all of this in my one-on-one with him on Tuesday, March 17th morning. I still feel extremely uneasy about his apparent fixation on me, or at the very least, my office, and that he returned several times in alignment with my schedule. I've been having my boyfriend escort me to and from night classes and my office, and will leverage a police or male staff escort if he is ever unavailable. No activity from this man since Tuesday. Since making my first post, I did some work back at my apartment as well. I asked the management office if my unit or building had a history of drug crime or any other reason it would be a point of interest, or at least more so than any other unit in an already not so great neighborhood. The manager is a different one from when I signed my lease back in May, and she found no notes about crime or suspicious activity in that unit. I did remember that I sometimes get mail addressed to someone who I presume is a previous occupant, but nothing in my OSINT repertoire, which is open source intelligence, or IT intelligence, came up with anything suspicious for his name, arrest records, obits, socials, etc. I've also purchased some pepper spray, set up a Ring camera. I totally forgot I had one from when I moved in, and should be receiving a stun gun and window cams from Amazon soon. Planning a range date with my boyfriend to put a couple hundred rounds through my Glock as well. But yeah, that's the less than comforting update to this whole situation. At least the tracker is out of the way, but I'm still so on edge with this guy and apparently the group he is/was in. I'm worried about what will happen if I run into him again, let alone that whole group. I don't know what else to do besides literally never be alone ever. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, I would see about permanently working remote from home. If not an option, then your office needs to start locking its doors and letting people in by appointment only. They are not taking enough precautions to keep you safe, in my opinion. What happens if the next time there's a group and you're alone or they're armed? This is serious. It doesn't seem to be handled as such by your company. Please update as you can and sending all of the good vibes your way. And then the OP responds to this saying, I was actually working remotely quite a bit before executive leadership started getting huffy about office culture and showing up for our students last year, so our remote options became very limited. University policy dictates that every office in our division is meant to be open to the public, and it's going to be basically impossible to convince higher-ups to budge on that. The office door itself is a push bar. You can see the end of it in the picture, and it doesn't lock from the inside. Basically, if a staff member is in the office, anyone can get in. Another user says, is there CCTV outside of your building? Maybe they can track the guy from where he enters the campus. Also, can I ask what kind of department you are in? Is there anything in your work that could be contentious or divisive? I saw your other post, and this sounds really scary. Please update us and stay safe. And the OP responds saying, it's a very standard and non-contentious office you'd find in any university. Think along the lines of admissions and enrollment. A lot of our buildings have poor external coverage, but great hallway and stairwell coverage. And then someone recommends that the OP gets a big dog, and the OP responds saying, I unfortunately don't have the time or resources for a big dog. My Shih Tzu will have to do as a burglar alarm. And then a user comments underneath that, replying to the OP saying, a small yapper is an excellent alert system. I'd also suggest running through scenarios in your head if they do attempt to breach your apartment. Does your BR door lock? Does it open inwards or outwards? If in, good. Next, think about the heaviest piece of furniture you have to barricade it. Make sure it's slidable. Amazon sells these door locks that are easy to install and provide that extra level of security. If you Google Defender high security door locks, you'll find it. For under $20, it's really effective, and we installed on our MBR door for extra peace of mind. And the OP responds saying, bedroom door locks and opens into the room. In December, when I first found the tracker, I panicked and brought in a living room chair to press against the door. I can't do a whole lot of drilling since I rent, unfortunately, but as an extra layer of security, my boyfriend has been sleeping over at my place a lot, and I've slept at his on weekends. And then the OP attaches a picture of the strange office visitor, and honestly, we can't see much. We can see it's a guy in gray sweatpants with a red hoodie, but the OP does mention he was wearing the face cover and the hairnet. Very strange, and also sunglasses, so this guy obviously doesn't want to be identified, and very, very sketchy. And that is the last update we have received from the OP, but God, such a scary situation. This guy is obviously up to no good. Who knows what it could be? People are speculating that's a human trafficker or a kidnapper, or just a strange guy that's stalking the OP. But I don't know. Very strange. Obviously, really, really concerning. And I hope the OP is safe. The OP did make a comment like 2 weeks ago, as of the recording of this video, saying, yeah, I'm all right. I'm all good. And so hopefully the OP's, good and nothing's happened, but who knows what those guys want. And it kind of sucks we never got a resolution as to who that guy was. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's a human trafficker, a stalker, a kidnapper, or just a crazy guy? And or it could just be nothing. It could just be a coincidence that this guy keeps showing up, but I don't think it's a coincidence. I really think the OP could be being stalked by this guy or multiple people. Super terrifying, but I hope the OP is all right and nothing dangerous or crazy happens to her. Am I being targeted? I'm not sure if I'm being targeted or if I'm just overthinking, but either way, I'm getting a bit scared. I, female, 23, live by myself in a triplex apartment in a major Texas city with a little dog. Today, I noticed some damage in my car, and then the OP links a picture to the damage, and we can see what I assume to be the hood of the car with some scrapes on it, and just some minor damage. I can't really tell what that's from, though. I mean, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weird scrapes. Very strange, but let's continue. Some scrapes on my car. For context, I first noticed the damage on July 6th and pointed it out to my father, who assumed I drove into something. I really don't think I did, because with damage that stark, I would probably have noticed / felt it / remembered it. I told him that I don't remember causing the damage, and I brushed it off as someone potentially hitting me in a parking lot or something. I looked at my car today, and it looks worse. I unfortunately did not take any pictures on July 6th when I first noticed some markings, but I swear they were not this many before. Since July 6th, I've washed and buffed my car. These markings look fresh, and some have a faint pattern. What is also new is the missing circular part on the front of my car and what looks like more damage to the plastic holding my license plate. The circle thing was definitely not gone before. I checked my carport and there is no damage to it, and I have not hit anything. Does anyone have any ideas of what these markings could be? Could be related. I've been receiving phone calls late at night around 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. on and off from a blocked number. It's very random. It happens one every week or 2 weeks, and it happens multiple times a night. Sometimes back to back, but other times with hours in between. I'm not sure if I'm freaking out for no reason or what, but this whole situation has made me feel nauseous. I'm a young woman who lives alone, and nothing has come up on my Ring doorbell at least. Can anyone help identify the marks or have any ideas on what could have caused them? Once again, I don't drink like that, so I didn't black out, and I don't have any recollection of hitting something that could have caused this. The damage looks intentional to me, and I really think something happened again because it looks worse and there's more missing parts. I just came back from a weekend vacation out of state and left my car in the carport and swear it didn't look like that. I'm confused and scared. Does anyone have any thoughts or ideas? Thank you. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, someone could, though unlikely, be picking your car at night and using it. Some criminals do that to avoid using a car traceable to them. I've seen this once. After parking, take note of mileage and gas level. And the OP responds, thanks for the advice. Another user says, when you park your car for the night, take a picture of your odometer and compare it to the morning. Another user says, who else has access to your car keys? When your car is parked, is the front parked up against something, or is it open space where someone could damage the front of your car? Do you have an ex or a stalker? Do you take any sleeping pills? And then the OP makes an update a day later, which reads as follows. After reading some responses, I can understand that this post can be read as a bit extreme. I want to note that I do not experience high anxiety or delusions in my life. I am stable professionally / personally and socially, and I am strictly going into detail to cover all bases. And then the user makes another edit saying, someone is the Ask a Mechanic subreddit said it looks like tread from a motorbike or motorcycle. Seems like a valid point, but I'm never around those. And then the third and final edit, which reads as follows. I'm pretty sure my car is being picked at night, taken for joyrides and returned. I also smelled weed inside the car, but chalked it up to a skunk. With all the theories, this seems the most likely and is starting to make sense. And then the OP makes another post a few days later, which is titled, Am I Being Targeted? Part 2, and let's get into it. Hey RBI, I'm back with another post on mysterious damage to my car. In my last post, I detailed a situation where I was unsure of where damage to my car came from and reached out for help. I was thinking that someone was breaking into my car, going on joyrides, and returning it to my carport. I presented damage that I know I didn't do and laid out my case. Well, people on Reddit and in my real life convinced me that I was most likely the one to cause the damage. I chalked it up to me somehow blacking out while drinking and not remembering that I did it. I was convinced and put it all to bed. Because of being convinced I was crazy and just blacked out, I didn't get a camera or anything. I really thought I was being delusional and chose Occam's razor. Well, shit. Then comes this morning. I was getting gas and noticed splatter on my car. Upon further inspection, I also found scratches. Not paint, it's not coming off. On the area above my back passenger side window. I have no recollection of getting anything splattered on my car or anything like that. I also don't know where the scratches came from. I've never attached anything to the roof of my car and don't ever use that door, so I'm at a loss. Some of splatter got on my window and it had a kind of dark yellowish tint. It splattered and dripped down. But I live in Texas, so it's dried in the heat. I smelled it and it smells bad, obviously. But I have no idea what hot piss that dried on the side of the car smells like. I want to be clear. I am not overly or unreasonably anxious in my everyday life. I do not have any underlying or undiagnosed mental health issues. I do not believe I'm being gang stalked. I'm not experiencing carbon monoxide poisoning. I live a normal life, am not ever in dangerous or questionable situations, don't do drugs, and ever since the last incident have barely drank because I was convinced I had previously blacked out. No one has access to my car except me. I lock it up every night. Extra sure now since the last post. And I don't ever leave valuables in my car. I do live in a high crime ghetto neighborhood in a major city, and my car is potentially accessible to anyone because I live on an open public street. At this point, I'm just confused and a bit frustrated. If anyone on here has a history of breaking into cars, please tell me if this looks familiar. I promise I won't judge you. I'm here reaching out for ideas or advice because I'm really at a loss. In the OP Mix and Edit saying, people are saying cat pee and cat scratches. That's definitely what I'm leaning towards now. And man, the OP is all over the place. Going from I blacked out, I was driving while blacked out, drunk, to someone's breaking into my car, hot wiring it, and then stealing it and going on joyrides, to just cat pee and cat scratches. And that's basically what everyone said in the comments. So I'm not going to read the comments. Everyone's basically just saying they think it's cat pee or bird poop or whatever, which is interesting. But at the same time, this is just all over the place. So what do you think? Do you think someone is breaking into the OP's car and driving it around? Because still, there's no explanation for the scratches on the hood of the car. Like, that's not cat poop. That's a scratch. You know what I'm saying? Like, that has to be something. So what actually caused that? Did the OP actually black out drinking behind the wheel, or some other crazy explanation for all of these crazy things that we aren't thinking of? So comment down below your thoughts, and yeah, I'm really curious to hear what you guys think. And also, that was the last update we have received from the OP, and this was 9 months ago, so I don't think we're getting an update anytime soon, but yeah, leave your thoughts down below. Somehow, my things always end up where I don't keep them. For the last month or so, my things, stuffs like hair bands and clips or pens, pencils, etc., always end up where I don't keep them. At first, I didn't give it much thought because those are small things, and I might not have been that mindful of them. And when I kind of told this to my mom, she just said, you might just have been irresponsible with them. So I kind of just let it go, though I was very bemused with the whole thing. I am really not a person who is very organized or very obsessed with the placements of my own things, but at the same time, I do know where I keep them. Not the person to keep all their pens in the pen stand, but a person who keeps their pen at least on their desk. It won't travel much far after that. I do hope I'm making sense. Around 2 weeks before, something happened, and I haven't been able to take my mind off of it. I usually sleep pretty late at night, and on this day this happened. I was scrolling through Reels, and before I slept, I removed my headphones and my specs, my old one that I wasn't using much at that point in time, and kept them under my bed. And in the morning when I woke up and reached down for my specs, it wasn't there. But the headphones that I placed was there, in the same place, in the same way I kept it. I was confused, but just thought maybe I'm not seeing it properly, and thus I went out, brushed, and wore my other pair of specs, came and checked again, but no, only my headphones were there. I was at this point baffled because I very clearly remember placing them under the bed and near my headphones. So I started searching for it on the floor with the help of torchlight and everything, but I didn't get them. I asked my brother. I live with my brother and my mother, and he said he didn't see anything, and he also helped me search. I thought my brother was pulling a prank on me because he usually has a habit of doing silly pranks like this. But when I asked him, he said no, and that he will never hide my glasses knowing I can't see properly without them. But I still wasn't convinced and thought he will just give it back to me by his own account. But no, it did turn out he really didn't know where my glasses and got quite angry when I kept accusing him of it. And so I was clearly in the loss and had no idea what to do. I then checked the places where I usually keep my glasses, on the shelf, under my desk, on top of my cabinet, so on and so on, but it was nowhere to be found. When I told my mom, she said the same thing she said before. You're just irresponsible and careless with it now that you got a new pair of specs. You're disregarding your old ones. And she tried so hard to insist that I myself would have kept it somewhere else, and I'm searching it for it now. And though I was almost swayed by it because nothing else would make sense, I kept saying that I vividly remember keeping my specs there, and I stood by my point. I then just moved the issue to the back of my mind because I had an exam the next day. Fast forward to 2 days later, where I'm packing my bag for a small trip. While searching for my wallet, I found my specs. The room I slept in and the room I study in are two separate rooms, and they are entirely across the hallway. And the desk I used to study used to be a computer desk that I used for gaming when I was a child, so there is the top of the desk, and there's a sliding compartment where the keyboard was once, and for which I have no use now since I'm not using the computer anymore. And then down the compartment, there is space for keeping my books. I found my wallet on the top of the books, and when I bent down to pick up my wallet, I saw the specs in the sliding compartment, kept at the very far back of it. I really didn't know how to react, and just took my specs and kept it inside its box. Again, when I informed my mom, she told me the same thing, that I would have misplaced it and to let this go. But no, I am not at all convinced that I'm 100% sure I removed and kept my specs under the bed that night, and even if I didn't, I would have never kept it in that compartment. What am I supposed to make of this? And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says the first step, according to Reddit, is to check for carbon monoxide. And the OP says, I'm aware of that Reddit lore, and I can say that I'm in a very ventilated area, so there is no way for this. Another user says, my parents have a dog door to the backyard. They'd keep the cover off at night. They started losing small items around the house. While cleaning, they found a bunch of the lost items as well as a pile of the dog's food under my younger sister's bed. They set up a camera in her room because they thought she was sleepwalking. She sleptwalked in the past. Instead, they saw a giant rat sneaking in at night and storing things under her bed. So maybe a rodent or something sneaking in. Maybe sleepwalk. Another user says, I'd love to say carbon monoxide, but your family would be affected by it too. It really just sounds like your mom is the gaslight type. I wouldn't be surprised if she's moving things around and then calling you irresponsible. Other than that, sleepwalking is an idea. Get a camera, but tell nobody about it in case they are the ones moving things. That would answer your question immediately. Another user says, do a trial. You have to keep it completely secret. Deliberately place one of the things in a slightly misplaced location and take a picture so you'll have a timestamp. If it disappears or is suddenly somewhere else, it's likely that someone is trying to gaslight you. If it's possible to do the trial or repeat it when either your mom or brother is going to be out to the house overnight, even better. And that is the last update we have received from the OP. And what do you think is happening to the OP? What or who do you think is taking her glasses or her things and moving them to strange places? Or do you think it's the OP sleepwalking or forgetting because of carbon monoxide or some other theory? Comment your thoughts down below.